All right, perfect. So we're in the beautiful city of Beverly Hills, and we have the honor to be here with Hector Padilla, who is an American success story. He's a father, a husband, a global traveler, has visited over 24 countries, who went from pepper boy to police officer to a realtor to broker owner to an affluent man he is today. He has built his wealth by focusing on acquisition of apartment buildings, motels, and commercial properties, and has purchased over 100 million in assets. Hector is a real life example of what any man can achieve when you focus on your goals and embrace delayed gratification.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hector, thank you so much for
Hey,
being here with us, man.
thank you.
It is an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Hector.
Thank you.
It was a great morning already, just conversating with you on the way here. So we appreciate your
Absolutely.
time, and it's an honor to be sitting here with you today.
Thank you.
So Hector,
Yeah.
jumping right in, take us back to the beginning. Many people might see you as you are today, and wonder, man, this guy probably came from money. His parents were probably rich, Beverly Hills, but we know that that's not the case. So talk to us about a little bit about that.
Yeah, and also, long story short, I grew up working class, and then we kind of moved up a little bit to middle class. But I didn't go to any private schools. I went to LA Unified School System, which is not a good school system. And then from there, I went to a community college. I did go and get my bachelor's degree, and I became a police officer. And then after becoming a police officer, I realized that that wasn't for me. I got into real estate, and like you were saying, I went from being a broker for an assistant for a broker, buyer's agent, listing agent, owning my own brokerage, and then owning a fix and flip company. And then eventually I made my pivot, and I started my real estate acquisition and investment firm with a built-in management company, a built-in maintenance company, and a built-in brokerage, but we only serviced my portfolio. And that was the big game changer, is making that pivot and focusing on the multi-million-dollar properties.
So a lot of men, especially Hispanic men like us, in our 30s, maybe even in our 20s, I think growing up, we struggle to. You're here, yeah, and so growing up, it's difficult for us to have that big think. Maybe because of the way that we were brought up, or the way that our parents raised us, or even just failed to transfer that big think. You talked about in our drive here how you were not born rich. You were born into a low class family that eventually made it to middle class, thanks to the investments that you made. So share with us a little bit about that kind of upbringing and how you were able to take your family from being lower class and how you focused on investing in.
So what would help me, I'll give you a prime example of what happened. When I left the police department, better yet, when I was in the police department, everybody was driving a pickup truck, a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord, and you had your 2-bedroom, 1-bath house with the white picket fence, 1 or 2 kids and a dog, and you made it, right? That was the dream, that was the lifestyle. When I left the police department and I got into real estate, one of the life-changing events was I went to a Mike Ferry event. And when I went to that Mike Ferry event in Palm Springs, that's where I saw everybody not everybody, but the people sitting in the front row. The people sitting in the front row were part of one-on-one coaching. So they were paying a lot of money to be coached by that company. And they were the ones wearing the tailored suits, driving the S-Class Mercedes, driving the BMWs. I remember having the Mont Blanc pen on the coat, wearing the Rolex, the fancy watches. And that's what made me see, like, wow, there's more to this. Like, I don't need to just have the little house with the picket fence. Like, these people are living an amazing lifestyle. And my thinking was, if they did it, then I can do it. So one thing that changed for me was my circle of influence. So I stopped hanging out with people that had no goals or very small goals, and I started to surround my people with men that were thinking bigger, that were the savvy and sophisticated investors, that owned the real estate portfolios, and those were the wealthy guys. And I just saw them and I said, if they can do it, I can do it.
Wow.
So it was changing that circle of influence. Who was I going out with? Who are you going to go out with? Are you going to go out and hang out with chumps or champs? And I highly recommend you hang out with champs and stop hanging out with the chumps.
Hector, you bring up. I just think about because you were a cop before, and being first generation Mexican Americans here in the States, to a lot of our parents that came from Mexico and we grew up here, being a cop for them it may be like the pedal stone, and it might be like you made it, son.
Yeah.
And to take a risk on a 1099 position or job or entrepreneurship, it might be like, ¿qué estás haciendo, mijo? Like you're leaving it all behind. Like it's almost a risk. How did your parents, one, react to you leaving the police department? And what recommendation would you have for those individuals who are maybe in a position where they have the dream job according to their parents' vision, but they feel inside of them that desire that I can do more? Like exactly that paradigm shift that you got, seeing that.
Yeah.
What would you tell them? And how did your parents react to?
Okay, so I would take it a step back from what you just said. Okay, so number one, if you're a police officer, congratulations and thank you for your service. If you're a fighter, the same thing. Yeah. Thank you for the service. Doctors, nurses, thank you for the service. But if you guys want to live a better lifestyle, you got to learn how to invest. It's okay to continue to be that police officer or the firefighter or the nurse or the school teacher, but learn how to invest in the cash producing assets, whether it's going to be real estate or whether it's going to be other businesses. Okay, so going back to, you're right. A lot of the times in the Latino community, it's like if you have that steady paycheck, you have that safety, they want you to stick to that. But having that paycheck, you're capped off. There's not much more you can do unless, again, you learn how to invest in the cash-producing assets. So luckily for me, my parents were very supportive, and they knew that I had work ethic. I wasn't going to sit on the couch and play video games all day. Like, I wanted to become successful, right? So for you, if you have parents that want you to have that security, you need to explain to them, like, this is not what I want. What I want is X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to make it happen. Not that I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And I want your support. And when they start to see that you're succeeding, then they're going to start to support you more. Because they're going to see that you have that work ethic, that you're working what I call half days. And a half day is not that 4-hour day. A half day is the first 12 hours of the day or the second 12 hours of the day. That's a half day. So when they see that their mijo is working half days and they start to see that you're succeeding, then they're going to support you.
I want to pick at that a little bit because it's interesting how you share that, because I went through a similar experience where I was a teacher. I graduated high school. I'm graduated from Fresno State. And in my parents' eyes, I had accomplished what the dream was, right?
Yeah.
And to take it a little bit further back, I feel like my generation, which I'm 32, so a millennial, but our parents' generation, the baby boomers, their mission was to get us here, right? My parents came from Guanajuato, Mexico. A lot of our parents were first generation immigrants.
Yep.
So their mission was to get us here, to give us a better opportunity than the one that they had. So they could only see so far, which was, mijo, tienes que estudiar, tienes que ir a la escuela para agarrar un buen trabajo. And so for me, when I achieved that, I also found myself feeling like, damn, like I feel like I should feel more full, but I didn't. And so my point here is, talk to us a little bit about how that was for you growing up, because I would imagine that it was similar than that we all experienced, which was like our parents. So you posted a picture of your dad one time,
right?
And you guys were standing in front of a Rolls Royce, and you shared how you
so good
were like, your dad says, mijo, let's take a picture in front of this Rolls Royce. Y tú le dices, you thought to yourself, I'm never going to own a $400,000 car. And then your dad tells you, like, you're one day going to have your future wife and shopping here. Share that with us, because I feel like most recently I didn't discover that I had a gaping hole for the lack of my father's affection, because he was busy building and getting us to where we are so that I can take it one step further. Yep. But you shared how your dad was very...
Yeah, so again, I was blessed with an extraordinary father and an extraordinary mother. But yeah, you know what? Sometimes you will do more because people believe in you more than you believe in yourself. So in that situation, yeah, my father was like, we were on Rodeo Drive, And he's like, let's take a picture in front of this Rolls Royce. And I just felt silly. I'm like, Dad, I'll never have a Rolls Royce. And he's like, no, I'm going to get choked up. But what he said was, not only are you going to have a Rolls Royce, you're going to be married and you're going to bring your wife shopping on Rodeo Drive. And I was like, no way, right? Like, my goal was to become a police officer. So fast forward, I bought myself the Rolls Royce.
Wow.
Fast forward, I've taken my wife shopping numerous times on Rodeo Drive. Fast forward, I bought the house in the Beverly Hills area, right? So my father and my mother believed more in me than I believed in myself. So for you parents out there, make sure that you do the same thing. Believe in your kids. Let them know that they can do it. If he did it, you can do it, right? So be that rock for the kids.
It's so powerful. So powerful. It gets me to think too of there was a picture that it really inspired me because it's something that I would want to do for my mom. Back in 2021, you posted a picture of you and your mom, same thing, in the Rolls Royce. And then your mom was saying, Mijo, like, why is everybody staring at me?
Yeah. And
And then I think about, and then in the picture you said, well, just think about like you're a celebrity. And everybody's, just looking at you. And then she started waving at people. And I think about like, I can only imagine, because now I'm a father, I have kids.
Yeah.
You're a father.
Right.
You have, Bella. I can only imagine that moment of how proud she must have been of her mijo. And it's almost like placing her in that position where like she is a star.
Yeah.
She's a celebrity. And her son was able to, like, I just think about that. And I'm sure that moment was amazing too. And
so I'll give you a little more background on that. So I always talk about buy-in. Again, if you're married, you need to have buy-in from your wife on what you're doing and how it's going to benefit her and how it's going to benefit the family, right? When I was starting my business, I'm the only son. So my mom, whatever she asked me for, I would do it. But then I started getting coaching, business coaching. And my business coach said, you don't pick up any personal phone calls. You focus on prospecting. Prospect. If something catches on fire, your assistant should be calling the fire department, not disturbing your prospecting. If somebody breaks into a business that you own, they shouldn't be calling you. You got to focus on the prospecting. Let them call the police department. When you're done with the prospecting, go handle that, right? So my mom says, Miko, can you go buy me a gallon of milk? And I told her, no, Mom, I can't do it. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I'm working, right? Crushed her. At that point, she was running some shoe stores, but she hated it. That was her business. And I said, Mom, I need to prospect to build up the business, to make more money, to hire my first assistant. Then I'm going to start investing in real estate. Understand what I'm doing, and I'm going to retire you.
Wow.
And guess what I did? I retired her.
Wow.
At a very young age. And I made all of her dreams. When I started making money, I asked her, what's on the bucket list, right? What do you want to experience before you die? And she said, I want to go to Cuba. I took her to Cuba. I want to go to Spain. I want to go to France. I want to go to Italy. I took her to those places. I want to go tour Mexico. We did that. So I made all of her dreams come true. One of the lessons that I learned from one of my mentors, we call him Build a Billionaire. He said, you got to have pocket promises. If you have a pocket promise, the likelihood of you accomplishing that promise is about 90 to 100%. So the pocket promise is when you promise a loved one, when you promise your mom, I'm going to do this. If you have a daughter, I'm going to do this. Wife, I'm going to do this. We're going to own our own home. We're going to own a real estate portfolio. We're going to travel the world. But guess what? Monday through Thursday, for me, it's go time. Friday, I'm working. Nighttime, it's date night. Right? So when you promise them something, your chances of accomplishing it, that pocket promise, is 90 to 100%. And he called it a pocket promise because he literally wrote it down on an index card. He would fold it up and put it in his pocket. So every morning he would read his pocket promise, right? Lunchtime, his pocket promise. Dinner time, he would read it again. He'd come home from work, he'd pull it out, read it again. It was always in his head.
Wow.
Those pocket promises that he made his loved ones.
That's powerful. On our way here, to finish that story of you taking your mom in the Rolls Royce, you finished the caption by saying that you took her to a dinner where it was just you and her. And I feel like when we're in building mode, especially in our late 20s and early 30s, we get so caught up in the hustle and bustle
Yep.
that it's really, and sometimes it's actually necessary to make sacrifices, like you said. You got to tell the wife, hey, I'm in building mode, I'm going. Or, you tell your parents, hey, I'm building right now. But eventually, if you do things right, you get to put people and systems in place that will allow for you to disconnect from letting your business run you. Then you shared that you went to a dinner with an affluential man who was on his phone this entire time.
Right.
So share a little bit about that, how we as young men fail to put processes and systems and people in place and let our business run us. And now we're just doing this all day.
Right. Yep. You guys have to understand again that there's a huge difference, and we talked about this earlier, between having financial goals and having values. So for me, I'm guided by my family values and then my financial goals. And remember that your financial goals are going to change like the weather. And your family values are like the climate. They're going to be more consistent, right? So you're right. When you're on go mode and it's Monday through Thursday, it's go mode.
Yeah.
But you can let your parents know, hey, Sunday is family day. I will see you guys on Sunday, and you spend quality time with them, right? And you guys have to follow time-proven wisdom and business fundamentals. And part of time-proven wisdom is 6 days of labor, 1 day of rest, especially when you're building. Once you've built it, now it can be 4 days of labor and 3 days of rest, but you've already built the business. And if you guys are doing it all by yourself, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
You got to have that dream team so that you guys can grow the business and have more time freedom. And understand there's a big difference between having a flexible schedule and time freedom. A flexible schedule allows you to go pick up your kids from school, but you're already on your phone while you're driving to school. You pick up the kids, you're back on the phone, or you're texting or emailing. That's a flexible schedule. That's not time freedom. Time freedom is when you travel and you're gone for 35, 45 days and you're not working because the business, you built a true business that's taking care of business while you're enjoying your family.
Wow.
I think that's interesting that you share that, because I think it kind of happens in stages, right? Like you shared this earlier too, where like if you're in your 20s and you have no kids and you have no wife, like le tienes que chingar. Duro.
Let's go.
So I share with you on a ride home, on a ride over here, that like for me it happened a little bit backwards, where I had a kid when I was 20. Fernando had a kid when he was like 16.
Man,
so
he was a kid having a kid.
so we didn't have a choice but to like grow up alongside of our partners. For me, I've been fortunate enough to stay with my now wife, who we've been together 15 years. But she's seen me grow through those struggles of like being a kid, you know, being a knight, and now transitioning into becoming a businessman. So I agree with you where you say, le tienes que chingar during those early years.
Oh, yeah.
And as you transition, so what's your take on that? Because for me, I feel like we're barely starting to build the foundational blocks. And yeah, I have a couple people here and there. And yeah, I get to forward my calls to my assistant, but I am not there yet. So what's that? I know work-life balance is like what's thrown around there, right? What's your take on that? Like you mentioned, you have to tell your partner, you have to have buy-in from your partner. She has to know that you're still building.
Yeah.
At what point did you feel that transition happening from, okay, foundation to time freedom?
So again, you know, we've talked about this numerous times, is knowing what kind of lifestyle you want to live and knowing what kind of lifestyle your wife wants to live, right? And then understanding what's going to be the cost per month to live that dream lifestyle and making that not with active income, but with passive income. Again, investing in real estate or other cash producing assets that pay for that lifestyle and pay for that monthly overhead so that you do have true time freedom and not just a flexible schedule. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I was trying to pick at was like, for me, I feel like I'm not in my 20s anymore. I have some kids. I have my wife. But I'm still in chingarle mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we still got some work to do. So what's that look like for somebody like myself who is married, who does have kids, who does have some people in place, but you still got 5, 10, 15 years. You're still going on a run, you know?
Are you talking about you still going on a run?
Yeah.
Okay. So something that's going to help you with that is leverage and having vetted mentors that figured it out. so that they can tell you, no, you know what, you're grinding.
Yeah.
And I don't like that word grind, because grinding to me means you're grinding your life away, you're grinding your marriage away, you're grinding your health away. It's how do you work intelligently? How do you work strategically? And you're going to get more of that by guys that are up here and not coaches that are either here or maybe they're here. You don't want to just have a coach that says, how many phone calls did you make today? Right? Did you do your lead follow-up? Like, that helps a little bit, but you want more of those vetted mentors that can tell you how to really live your dream lifestyle and how to build up your business strategically so you're not grinding all the time. Learn from what I call the lions. Learn from the guys that have been around for a while. And when you guys have mentors, you know, some of my mentors were real estate mentors only because they're on their 5th marriage, right?
Wow.
So they haven't figured that part out, but they figured out the real estate part. So I may go to them for advice on real estate, but am I going to go to them for advice on marriage? I don't know, maybe not.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's so good. When you talk about knowing your dream life, it gets me to think. Me and my wife are reading a book called "Smart Couples Finish Rich." Smart Couples Finish Rich, and one of the second chapter talks about how it's important for you and your spouse to know how important is money, level of 1 to 10, and then the book makes you do an exercise where you do either 1 being least important, 10 being the most important in your household. Surprisingly, me and my wife both chose 8. We both chose 8 high.
Yeah.
And then the second exercise says you got to think about your financial principles, meaning like what are some principles in your life, in your household, that you can use as a foundation to like now go back into when you're making money. It's not to make money to buy stuff, but make money because something's important. And then you guys can both align on those principles. Like if spending time with your children is important, so we're making money because we want freedom to spend time with them, etc. Right?
Right.
It gets me to think because I know that you spoke about, being in real estate, and I'm sure that when you were in real estate, you started with a circle that you guys were probably making the same amount of money, or some were making more than you. A decade, 2 decades later, they're probably still in the same position, and then you're way ahead, had invested. What was that shift like for you to like know that you had to almost leave the group, but the group is comfortable because you're making money, but you know that you had to take, I'm sure, greater leaps of faith throughout the last decades? Like, where did that shift come from, and what
it's
were
like
some
that
things?
saying that says that even though the tree doesn't hang out with the grass, even though they both come from the same place.
Yeah. Yeah, you start growing. Like I talked earlier about when I was a police officer, and that was one circle. And then I got into another circle. And one of the circles that you don't want to get stuck on is with the Henrys. And a Henry is a high earner, not rich yet. That's a Henry, right? So you have a lot of realtors, a lot of loan officers that are making pretty good money. So they're high earners, but they're not rich yet. And then I would take it a step up higher. It's like you don't want to be rich. You want to be wealthy. You want to be wealthy. And understand, what does that number mean to you?
Yeah.
Right? So what do you want your net worth to be? What do you want your monthly passive income to be? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? And again, making sure that you're in alignment with your wife. So like my wife, she's not into flash. She wants to play tennis 3 times a week. She wants to eat at her favorite restaurants. She wants to travel the world. She wants to have time freedom with our daughter. And she has all that. But she doesn't have a closet with 50 purses and 200 pairs of shoes. Right? So that's what's important for her.
It's interesting that you shared that book, because my wife and I recently, we now have a shared folder, because I shared with you on the way here that my wife is, God willing, going to join me in the business. So I've been prepping her to be studious. And we now have a shared folder where I say, hey, look, this is the video, this is the book that we're going to read. Put your notes here. We'll debrief it over at dinner on Friday nights. And it was an Alex and Layla Hormozi video where they were talking about not splitting chores. And I'd never heard this before, but they talk about how there's 4 different levels of like spousal support / sabotage in any business. So it talks about how the first one is the most negative, which is active sabotage, where the spouse or the wife or the girlfriend says, like, they're actively sabotaging what you do.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is where they're neutral, where they say, as long as it doesn't interfere with you and I, which kind of eventually turns negative, right? And then there's supportive, when they support you and what you do. But then there's a fourth step with not everybody reaches, where this only happens when you're like in business together, which I'm happy to say that most of us will now have the blessing because your wife is with you, where you're on a shared mission, where both of you are actively going after the same mission. Most people don't have that because most people are not in business together. So how has that been for you? Has Patty always been alongside you in a shared mission, or did it have to come, like, did it turn from supportive to shared mission?
No, so definitely Patty made a big shift when we got together. So one of the big things is she became more of a reader on business books, and she started to listen to more audio programs, and she started to understand the business more. So that was a big shift, because the challenge is that sometimes, you're an entrepreneur, and your wife doesn't understand what an entrepreneur is and what it's going to take. And they're just hackling you. I thought we were going to go out to dinner. How come you're canceling on me?
Sabotage.
Why? Yeah, they're sabotaging, why did you work 12 hours today? Money's not everything. And they're just not there to support you. So you need to make sure, again, that you have that buy-in from the wife, and that you guys are on the same mission, and that you guys are trying to accomplish the same things, and hopefully you're in alignment. So Patty and I are both in alignment with a lot of our goals. We're not looking to buy a huge mansion with 15 empty bedrooms to impress people that don't give a shit about us. I don't want to have a huge mansion to invite all kinds of people to come over to drink my wine and drink our booze and enjoy our food, and they don't care about me. I'd rather have a cozy home and invite close friends over. That's what I enjoy more. I enjoy more a dinner with two or one or two other couples. I don't enjoy big gatherings. When you're building a business and it's a company event, those are good, right? Because that's your culture. But for the most part, for me, it's just intimate events where we can have a better conversation, and we can enjoy a meal together, and just keeping life and business simple.
That's powerful. It's powerful because we have adult movie nights with Andy and his wife.
Nice.
Yeah, that's so good. It reminds me, Hector, there was a podcast I once saw, and then they were interviewing the actor Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Great guy.
And then he was talking about, one of his principles in life with his wife is to never outrun her. Like, never go too far ahead where he leaves his wife behind. So it was an advice that he was giving man. He said, like, it's side by side. And if you do outrun her a little bit, make sure that distance is not too crazy where she could still catch up to you, right?
Yeah, because then you stop having things to talk about. So if you're focused on your self-development and you're reading books, listening to audio programs, going to events, and your wife is just, a stay-at-home wife, and she's not investing into herself, then you're going to be growing, and she stays down here. You are no longer in alignment.
Correct.
You just outgrew each other.
One of the most recent realizations that I had on this topic is when I started in business, I started taking off like a rocket ship. And I started reading the books and developing and listening to the podcasts and attending seminars and being around the people like the Hectors. And my wife was here. And I used to think, man, why doesn't she understand? How come she, right? When all along I should have been helping her do this, which I now realize. So I feel like a lot of people fail to understand that your operating system is increasing. Like, you are now operating on the iPhone 18, but because of your lack of support to your wife, she's still operating on iOS 1.
Yeah, she's
talking about
Motorola.
Motorola crayons and boogers and stuff at home. So it's powerful because when you realize that you have to uplift to not let that gap get so far, that's where your shared mission. And now it's like rocket fuel because you have two people working towards the same mission, not actively sabotaging each other.
So now my post with my wife is I hashtag side by side and then a lock emoji.
Nice.
Because I feel like I'm doing the best that I can to, like, side by side with her, like, play ball together and make sure that we're both developing. For you, Hector, I know that at times, doing it for a season, a year, a couple of years, but doing it for like a decade, what is some advice that you can give us, men who are married, who are on that journey to make sure that our wife does stay side by side with us? We never outrun them. What are some of the things that, have helped you in your marriage to make sure that you and your wife are always in sync and aligned?
Okay, so remember, again, you have to understand No, number one, look, I ask people, who are you studying? And people say, oh, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, right? Whoever they're studying. But then I ask them, have you studied yourself? Like, do you know what you want and why do you want it? And how is it going to help you in your life? How is it going to happen in your business? Do you really know yourself? Or do you just want things because TikTok says this is the hip Lamborghini, right? So study yourself, know yourself. Also study your wife and know your wife. Know her love languages. Know what she wants, what she doesn't want. How does she learn? I'm a reader. My wife is no longer a reader like I am. She'll read a little bit, but you know how she learns a lot? Podcasts. She loves podcasts and audio programs. So she learns more listening. And watching, and I love reading. So understand how she's going to learn, and some of the things that she wants to learn are not some of the things I want to learn. Okay. So you don't always have to learn business together. You have to understand what is it that she wants to learn. The important thing is to be a student for life, to always be learning, always be growing. That's what you want to do.
Amen. Yeah. That's powerful. Pivoting the convo just a little bit, on a right here, you were talking about how many people that are in real estate, very similar to Fernando and I, maybe due to lack of appropriate mentorship, you said there's a saying that says you fake it till you make it. And you talk about that being cancerous because then you are trying to fake the funk and you're swiping credit cards and you're blowing your commissions and really not, you're focused on trying to look rich as opposed to trying to build wealth.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about how that happens in people in real estate where you start making a little bit of money when you fail to acquire wealth.
So I'll take it a step back before that part. Okay, so people always ask me, how was it that I created my wealth so quickly? So I started in real estate when I was 25. By the time I was 29, and I knew nothing about real estate. So I started at 25. By the time I was 29, I was a self-made millionaire. Wow. At 30, I had $2 million in the bank liquid, and I owned real estate. Okay? Back then, there was no social media. So I didn't fake it. I wasn't a fake flash dancer. How did I do it? KMS. Know my shit. When somebody asked me about a cap rate, I knew what I was talking about. Comps, I knew the comps. I knew the market. So when I'm speaking with confidence and I'm looking at my client in the eyes, they can see the confidence that KMS, I know my shit. Wow. And when they would see that confidence, that's how they would hire me. And I didn't have the tailored suits. My first suits were from JCPenney's. I think the brand is Stanford or Stafford. I forget what it is. Is that what it is? Stafford? All right, you guys know. Those are my first suits. They were $100.
Yeah.
Right? So I look sharp, but I wasn't wearing something like this.
Yeah.
This is an Italian tailored suit. But I wasn't wearing this at the beginning. So I knew my shit. I started to make money. People hired me because I knew what I was doing. And I started to make money. And then I learned delayed gratification. I didn't buy my first Mercedes until I can really afford, as they say, to be able to buy it 3 times and not have an issue with that payment. So I started to invest in real estate. I started increasing my passive income. And then I started to have the assets pay for my first Mercedes. And I just kept on doing the same thing. So I wasn't about the fake flash.
That's so good. Yeah, and when I think about when you say know your shit, it gets me to think about social media and how it serves its purpose. But I think one of the things that it allows people to do is that as long as they're good marketers, they don't have to know their shit. Yeah. They can perceive something that they're not. And unfortunately, I think especially our young Latino community who I feel like is hungry, they want to succeed in life, they want to they want to take their mom on a cruise, on a Rolls Royce to master. They want those things, and I think they fall into those traps because these people are becoming good at not their craft, but at marketing.
And it's good to become good at marketing, but you also have to know your business because eventually most of these people are going to flop. Yeah. So when you're playing the long game, to play the long game, you have to know your business. You have to know what you're doing. And you have to understand delayed gratification. This is why, again, we have so many guys in as realtors in the in the real estate business, in the lending business, where they're swiping it, their credit cards, right? And whatever they're making, they're spending 120% of what they gross. And that's why they have tax problems, because they're making good money, but they're spending 120% of what they're earning. So once you understand delayed gratification, you're really working hard on building the business so the business can then pay for the lifestyle. There's a saying that says, who eats first? Baby eats first. Who's the baby? Your business.
Wow.
You make extra money, you buy whatever you need to buy to make the business grow. You start making more money, you get the assistant. How do you get the first assistant? You set aside 4 to 6 months of reserves to pay her salary. Then you get the assistant. But when you get the assistant, that doesn't mean you sit on your ass.
Yeah.
That means she's taking care of the administrative part so that you can focus on building the wealth, so that you can focus on growing the business.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so interesting because these days I feel like we have so many distractions.
Oh yeah.
And it's really about like fighting for your attention span, like fighting for your own focus. And we also have now things like Amazon that make it, they program us. We've been programmed to like want things like this. It's like, I could go on fucking Amazon right now and I can order a thing and it'll be waiting for me at my house when I get home tomorrow. So I think those types of things make it challenging for young adults to even be able to think along. It's like the experiment where I think it's Stanford experiment where they did the delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you share that because most of the time I feel like we fail to delay that gratification, to be in the long game.
Yep. Yeah. If you guys want to enjoy life more, you definitely have to understand the long game and delayed gratification. With Amazon, here, it's not tomorrow night, it arrives tonight, right? And they even have an option between 4 a.m. and like 8 a.m. When we were living here, every day, I kid you not, almost every day, 3 to 5 packages from Amazon.
That's like weird.
From my wife.
Yeah, we have like a fucking like an Amazon warehouse distribution center. I tell my wife that too.
Yeah, and now we live in Mexico,
Yeah.
in Cabo, and we don't have that Amazon. Guess how many packages we get every day? None, right? And she realized that she doesn't need a lot of that stuff that she was getting, but it's so easy to click, deliver.
Yeah.
And it's done, right?
Yeah. It's interesting you share about delayed gratification because for me I call it farmer's mindset, which is you plant a seed and you gotta just delay gratification. I grew up the opposite, and unfortunately because I was the youngest of 3, I was the most chiquiado, and so I knew that as long as I cried or I throw a tantrum, my mom would get me whatever I wanted. And so I feel like as I grew older, I almost expected life to be the same.
Yeah.
Where I got things quickly. Through personal development, I realized that if I want something great, it's going to take a lot of time. And one of the ways that I almost like place myself in a position where I continue to work the muscle of delayed gratification is I have a 07 Honda. It's a little old beat up car. And sometimes, la otra vez se me calentó. And I was like, I need to get rid of this car. I'm like, fuck, it doesn't. And sometimes I go to clients and then and sometimes my ego even gets stroked because I'm like, man, like, I'm driving up in this car and like I know I can do better, but it's my way at least to like work that muscle of delayed gratification because I know how easy it is to. For you, is this something that came easy? Is it something that kind of allowed you to like force yourself to? Like how was that transition for you as far as like delayed gratification? How did you work that muscle?
Oh man, you know what? When I was starting in the business, I didn't have any money. I didn't like. I left being a police officer and got right into real estate. But I knew that perception became reality. And what is not, what is perceived is. So when I would go to Mastro's, I couldn't afford a steak, right? But I can, and I didn't start having alcohol till I was 27 years of age. But when I would go to the bar, I would ask for water, but in a martini glass with 2 olives. Oh yeah. And I would walk around with my martini, but it was water now, just sipping on it, and I was networking, man. So, I knew that my network would end up creating my net worth.
Wow.
And I can go to a bar and have a Budweiser, right? But who am I going to meet? So I knew that I needed to get into a different circle. So what traffic are you playing in? Are you playing in the traffic of Rodeo Drive, where if you get hit by a car, it's going to be a Rolls, a Bentley, a Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari? Or are you playing on Crenshaw Boulevard, where you're going to get hit by a Buick, what is it, the Buick Regal?
So good.
Right? Or what kind of car is going to hit you? So I always made sure I was playing in the right traffic. And it was just, I clearly knew that perception created reality to other people. When I was buying my first multi-million-dollar properties, I got to make sure I know what I'm saying on camera. But when I was buying my first multi-million-dollar properties, I didn't always have the $1 million, and I would make cash offers. Okay? So what I did was I started a land trust, and the land trust was called the Fitzgerald Family Trust, or the Feinstein Family Trust. And I would use a Jewish name because everybody knows that Jewish people have money.
Yeah.
And so when they saw that the buyer was the Fitzgerald Family Trust, they just assumed I had the $1 million in cash. But then I would tie up the property, and then I would find the funder, I would JV on it, and then we would do the deal. So I was always working creatively to make things happen. And I forgot what your question was.
No. The biggest question was like
Delayed gratification.
Yeah, where did that?
So with delayed gratification, I just I started to become a reader early on. And my first book was, the first book that I loved reading was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book changed my life.
Yeah.
Then from there, it was Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, yeah.
And when I read Think and Grow Rich, I'm like, man, I'm going to become a self-made millionaire. I still have $1 million bill. Obviously, it's fake. But on there, I put when I started reading the book and by what age I was going to become a self-made millionaire. And I had put it 10 years out. But I started at 25. In 4 years, I made my first million and became a self-made millionaire. By the time I was 30, I was a multimillionaire.
Wow.
So I was learning from the books, and that's where I learned about delayed gratification. And I was following Robert Kiyosaki, who was talking about investing in real estate, investing in businesses, being a business owner versus being a technician. So I was learning from them, and then I hired my first coach. And then from there, I was learning even more. So I learned it from them.
Wow.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about your most precious asset. Your 11-year-old girl, Bella.
10-year-old, but yes,
10-year-old.
Bella, yes.
One of my favorite things most recently that I have a little bit more schedule freedom is discipling my children. So we talked about on the way here how they begin to mirror you. They begin to mirror your tonality, the way in which you speak, the way in which you ask for things. So I share with you how I have been teaching my 11-year-old how to negotiate deals. So these days, you move to Cabo. You're out there for a year now, and you get to spend most of your time watching your daughter do the things that she does. A lot of activities. She surfs. She likes to play pickleball. So talk a little bit about that, because I feel like as parents, because we're so busy building, unfortunately for us, sometimes we don't have that time freedom, and we sacrifice watching the daughters play the softball game, but you get to enjoy that.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about.
Yeah. So again, learning from my mentors and learning from my family, I understood NRM, non-refundable moments. I am never going to get this time back. The two biggest regrets that affluent men have is, number one, not investing time with their children. Yeah. They spent the first 18 years building up their business. Yeah. And now that the business is built up, they want to go invest time with the kids, but the kids are gone. Yeah, so there's no relationship there. The same thing with the marriage. They're on their second, third, fourth divorce because they were so focused on building that business. So you need to understand what's important to you, right? For me, Bella's my number one mentee. Yeah. Like I'm investing a lot of time with her because it's not my goal anymore to build the empire bigger. It's my goal to invest more time with Bella because I know I'm not going to get this time back. So I know what's important to me. But what we were talking about earlier, I started in the business when I was 25. So from 25, I was, again, working those half days. I was putting in the time. I was investing in my number one asset. So I was able to build the business faster. Otherwise, it would have taken a long time. Yeah.
You also mentioned how, like, you consider yourself, you said stoic and Epicurean.
Correct.
Speak a little bit about that.
So stoic to me means that you learn how to live the good life so that you can earn an honorable death. Okay, so when I'm on my deathbed, I don't want to have any regrets. I want to be on my deathbed and say, damn, I lived a great life. I was an extraordinary father. I was an extraordinary husband. I was an extraordinary family man. I lived a good life. Simple yes, easy no. So how do you learn to live the good life? Part of it is not always chasing those shiny objects. Part of it is knowing when enough is enough. Part of it is knowing where do you want to invest your time? Making more money or with your family, right? And to me, Epicurean just means that you're making the best of everything. We talked about having that dinner. If I'm at dinner with my family, I want to be focused there and I want to enjoy that meal. I want to enjoy those precious moments. So that's what Epicurean means. It's just making the best out of life. I'll give you an example of that. I told you that Bella was obviously raised in a very affluent circle, okay? So we took a vacation to Cabo. This is before we lived there. And we went on a backpacking trip where we literally just packed the backpack and we just hit the road. And the good and bad with that, we ended up in this town where there's no electricity.
Wow.
There was only solar power. And we asked for the best room, but the best room was not the best room. So we move into the room and I turn on the fans, I turn on the lights, and I'm not thinking this is solar powered. So next thing you know, when the sun goes down, the fan stops working, the lights go out. And I'm like, what? Right? So there was no power. And Bella says, she's like, and it was hot. It was like August in Cabo, which is like really hot. And Bella was like, Dad, but be grateful that we have blankets. Wow. And I'm like thinking blankets in August, right? But that was her mindset. She's like, Dad, but be thankful we have blankets and we have beds. She's like, and did you look over there? We have 5 gallons of water. Wow. They literally brought in a 5-gallon jug of water. She's like, and the water still runs. And I'm like, damn. An attitude of gratitude.
Wow.
Right? And those are the things that you're going to input into your children, but only if you're there. Right? If you're not there, you're not going to be able to teach them.
I think that's a super valuable lesson because, I mean, I can't help but even just think of like myself. I shared earlier that, like, you know, I had to grow up with kids alongside my wife, got a lot of work to do. And so thank you for sharing that because it's really easy to get distracted in building and have small children. And then you do get to the 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're like, fuck. Now my daughters are 20-something.
Look, recently I was here in the Hollywood Hills, and we got invited to a fundraiser, right? So we go to this fundraiser in a mansion. Beautiful mansion, beautiful setup. And I sit down, and I'm sitting down to a gentleman that was a Harvard attorney. And we just start talking, and he just opens up. And then he starts crying. And he says, I lost my daughter. And I'm like, oh, man, like, what do you say, right? I lost my daughter. And so I'm just, you know, just listening to him. And he says, typical story. I spent the last 14 years, 15 years building the business, and I was never home. And I sold the practice, and I was finally able to invest time with my daughter. But now she's, 15, 16. She's like, when he said I lost my daughter, it wasn't that she died. It's that she went off to college. So it was only he only spent about 2 years with her, 16, 17, 18. And he was barely starting to enjoy her, and now she's out. So he's going through counseling to help him cope with that because he was so busy building the business. And that's what he meant by, I lost my daughter.
That's so interesting. And I think about it because, so in my personal life position, married, we have a blended family. So my wife, before I met her, she had 2 kids. I had 2 kids from my previous relationship. And then we have one 3-year-old together. So blended family.
5.
Yeah, 5.
Is that a basketball team? Almost, right? Yeah?
That is. We don't got no substitutes, but it's a full on basketball team. And I think about the fact that I've told Andy this before. I feel like in my heart, I know that I have the work ethic to be the entrepreneur. But I've chosen and I've come to the terms of being okay with being an entrepreneur
Yeah, it's fine.
and helping the company grow and scale, because I've come to the point where I have learned to live to know that like my harvest is going to take a lot longer than what I would have wanted, because I know that if I would have been single with no kids, and I could have ran and gone a lot faster. But it took me a long time to be okay with that decision, to know that like it's going to take time, because I know that I might not be able to do the 12 hours, 4 hours a day, because my biggest thing is I don't want to be, exactly like you said, older, build a successful business, and then look at my kids and say, man, I regret not being there at the basketball game, at the baseball game.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people now can see your success and be like, well, it's easier for him to say it because now he has his wealth and et cetera, right?
Right.
And where I'm going at is one of my favorite prayers is a prayer that one of my pastors shared with me, and he said, whenever you feel like you have a hard, like just a heavy burden, like you have a lot on your shoulders, he said, there's a prayer that has always helped me. He said, Lord, don't lighten my load, instead broaden my shoulders. I am not in the pursuit of comfort.
Yeah.
So for you, was there moments where like you felt like, because a lot of people might think like, well, your life is good now, but throughout your journey, like what were some of those hard, just things that you had to carry on your shoulders that people may not think come along with building such a successful life, building the life that you have now?
Look, just about, I talked on earlier about my mentors, and I had 3 that were, their names were Bill, right? So one of them had purchased $2 billion in real estate. And what he said is, Hector, everybody thinks that success is from point A to point B and it's a straight line. He's like, it's not. Success is you start here and all of a sudden you hit that hockey stick. Boom, boom, you take off, right? And you're like, man, I made it. But then what happens? The recession hits. That's what happened to me. I hit a hockey stick. I went from being a police officer, 4 years in the business, becoming a self-made millionaire, multimillionaire. So I went boom, right? Recession hits. That was a whole circle going back and going under. So when the recession hit, honestly, man, I was going to Pollo Loco. I remember this. I took my trusted right hand. His name is Adrian, and he's my cousin. He's been with me since we started the business. Wow. And I said, dude, let's go to Pollo Loco, because I had coupons. And I'm like, here's one coupon for you, and I'm getting this, literally, I'm getting this coupon. Yeah. So I had, I was, what do we call it? Equity rich. I had real estate, but I was cash poor. I didn't have the liquidity, but I had net worth. I had a 760, I think was LI, the big BMW. And I remember, man, driving on the street, guess what gear I was in? Neutral.
Just to know his gas?
I couldn't, dude, I didn't have money for gas.
Damn.
So I was on neutral, just cruising. And I'm like, please get me home. And then I called the car dealership and I'm like, hey, I'm taking this car back. I'm leaving it in the parking lot. I can't make the payment. And they're like, you can leave it here, but you're still responsible for the payment. And I'm like, damn. So, one way or another, we figured it out. I call it turning shit to sugar, turning dust to diamonds. How do you make the pivot? I was living up here in my Hollywood Hills house by myself. I had I was living the good life. But what did I do? I was coming home one night and I stopped by a bar to have a cocktail with the prospect. And when I'm there, I see the presidential suite renting out for $5,000 a night. And I said, you know what? That's right here on Doheny. I said, what if I turn my house to the presidential residence, a hotel alternative for the affluent? And I'm like, boom, this is before Airbnb. I'm like, I'm going to do that. I hire a new photographer. I hire some amateur models. I do the photo shoot. Patty helped me with it, my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but we set it all up. Yeah. And I turned my house into the presidential residence, a hotel alternative for the affluent. I turned shit to sugar. Wow. Guess where I was sleeping at? When my first client came in, I moved into one of my one of my fix and flips that wasn't selling, right? So I'm in the fix and flip, sleeping there. I just rented it to the first client. That client, make a long story short, I didn't know it at the time until a few days that he was in. I'm like, man, how is this guy gonna pay? Is he legit or what? He paid with the Black Amex.
Wow.
He spent about, I think it was like $65,000. We were charging $2,500 a night, Friday, Saturday. Then I think it was $1,500 Sunday through Thursday. So he spent about, I think it was like $75,000. Man, that guy saved me.
Wow.
Right? And then I'm sleeping at one of my fix and flips. Patty and I were dating. Guess what we had for dinner? Subway. I cut it up. I only had money to buy one sandwich. I cut it up in 2 pieces, a piece for her, a piece for me. I didn't have a refrigerator. So I had a little cooler on the side. So I bust out the cooler and I'm like, boom, 1 drink for you, 1 drink for me. And what I loved about that was that she saw what I was going through.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know how I was going to make it. Like, I was really turning shit to sugar fast. And then it's time to get romantic. And we go to the bedroom and we lay down and boom, se va el colchón. It was an inflatable bed. So the bed goes flying. And oh my God, man. But I've been in those times.
Yeah.
And what's kept me strong, I talked earlier about being stoic. You know, through COVID, we went through those times.
Yeah.
And I just know that the dust will settle. All storms come to an end, right?
Wow.
It's not over till it's over. We talked about waking up and having that $5 million morning, meaning if I gifted you $5 million tonight and I said, you can have the $5 million tonight, but you can't gift it. You have to spend it. But tomorrow morning, you don't wake up? Or do you prefer not to get the $5 million and wake up tomorrow morning? You're going to want to wake up.
Yeah.
That's the $5 million morning. So every morning I was like, thank God I'm alive. Let's fucking go. I was making pivots, man. So I turned my house into a hotel alternative for the affluent. I started getting into the REO business. I started selling foreclosures. And my high-end fix and flips weren't selling. I sold them, broke even, made a little bit of money, but got out of them. The ones that I couldn't sell, I rented them out. But I was just making pivots. I was turning shit to sugar, turning dust to diamonds. And I had a good fight. I was young. I was healthy. I'm like, we're going to get it done. I always found solutions. I created more opportunity than what I would find. So if you're going through a hard time, know that you're not the first one to go through it. Everyone goes through a hard time. It's how are you going to handle it? How are you going to make your pivot? Sit down on a yellow pad and write down what is the seed of the problem. Then write out 25 solutions to that problem. That's how I turned Flickr into a hotel alternative, right? But what sparked the idea was that visit to that hotel room. I just kept on going. So identify the seed of the problem and then come up with 25 solutions. And then as Bill the Billionaire, my mentor said, he said, Hector, you got to take massive, skilled action with calibrated adjustments. If something's not working, you got to change it, but you got to continue to prospect. You have to continue to do the lead follow-up. You got to take, for investors, I'll have mentees and they'll take my class, right? I have a 3-day class. They'll take it. They come out. And I'm like, did you close on something? Because what I say is if you take my 3-day class and you take massive skilled action with calibrated adjustments, in 4 months, you should put 2 deals into escrow and close on 1. And if you're not, it's because when I ask you, did you take massive skilled action with calibrated adjustments, you're going to say no. So the mentee will come back and say, well, I made 2 offers. Okay, you made 2 offers on 1 day? No, that week. No, man, you got to make more offers. You got to talk to more brokers. You got to go bang on some doors and talk to some sellers, right? You got to go break bread, shake hands, meet people, make things happen. So, everyone goes through hard times. Right?
What's really interesting, and I'll share a quick story that recently happened to me where I had to have gratitude attitude and hopefully this will serve those that are at the level like ourselves that have not yet made it and we still got a 10, 15 year ahead of us. I was listening to a podcast and it was with Patrick Bet-David, and the interviewer asks him, how do you kind of stay stoic through it all? And he shares that, God will put things on your plate, put things on your shoulders that you'll have to deal with just to see how you'll handle it. Because any responsible father will only give their kids enough to handle. That you're not going to overwhelm them. And so depending on how you handle it, you will either be promoted or stayed where you're at, or sometimes even demoted accordingly. So my assistant is pregnant. She's about to pop any day now. We were getting blessed with escrows left and right. Like, they were just falling out the sky.
Yeah.
And so I was losing her more and more because she was transitioning to motherhood. And I found myself just like almost having pity, like bitching and complaining and being like, fuck, like it's a lot. And then I listened to that message and I'm like, I'm getting tested. Depending on how I handle this storm, I will either be promoted or demoted accordingly. And you shared about turning shit to sugar. I brought on an administrative assistant immediately. I brought on a very experienced loan partner immediately. And we're making our way out that storm. And we had 20-something escrows, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And they're closing. But it happens when you face the storm.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying about like some cows in the Mideast where when there's a storm coming, the cows actually recognize that if they go through the storm, it's going to pass faster.
Yeah.
Where most of us will try to run from the storm.
Right.
You know? And I share that with you because it's like I said, Fernando and I, we're still on our mission, man. We still got 15, 20 years of that delayed gratification. And even somebody like ourselves can still put things in place, people in place, hire that assistant with the commissions that we make to be able to spend the time with our kids and not have to get to 50-year-old and be like, fuck, la regué.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So
yeah, one of my coaches early on, because I was going through a hard time when I got into the business, and he said, Hector, what I do is I hire people to do everything that I don't enjoy doing, and I only do what I enjoy doing, and that's what makes the business fun. He's like, so I don't make as much money because I have a whole team, but I enjoy what I'm doing. Right now, knowing that, I know that you can make more money when you're focused on doing what you're good at and you delegate the rest. You know, so same thing in that situation. I would tell that assistant, hey, go focus on your health, focus on your baby. I'm going to have work for you when you come back. I would get another, and I would hire up. If that personal assistant or executive assistant was at a 5 or 7, I'd hire an 8 or a 9. Have her help you boost up the business so then she still has an opportunity to come back and everyone is doing better.
Yeah.
Right? Grow that business.
I think that's the most, and to wrap here, just for the sake of time, I think that's the most powerful thing about the culture that our big brother Andy has created is that it's a growth environment where we're not in a company that is faking the funk and is buying the Rolex when you shouldn't be, or wasting those commissions, thanks to the mentorship, having access to an affluential male like yourself. So I think that's powerful because there's a lot of companies out there that, they might be closing more loans, or they might be faking the funk and swiping those credit cards and talking about how, brokies and this and that. But that's not the right information, man. Right. Like, I'm so happy and honored to be in a journey alongside yourself, Andy, who has those scars and shares them with you guys. And it's like, hey, fellas, look, man, like, trust me, I have these scars. This is what's down the road. This is the right mentorship that we should be seeking, and brings us around people like yourself, like the Chris Aguilars, who are actually at the end of the journey, towards the end of the journey, where they focused on putting assets and done it the right way, not faking the funk. So again, thank you so much for allowing us to sit at this table with you and have this conversation, because I feel like this information needs to be out there more. We gotta pivot from the freaking fake the funk, fake it till you make it, and teach people about how it's actually more important to delay the gratification and focus on acquiring assets, and then you buy the Rolls Royce.
Yeah. And with the so I'm all for, if you guys want the Rolls Royce, get the Rolls Royce. If you want the Lambo, get it. But again, have the real estate holding company lease the car, use the assets to pay for the car, then it's a write-off, right? So go for everything you want, go for the toys you want, but have the real estate portfolio, have the real estate holding company, have the cash producing assets pay for all the toys. And something else when you were talking about the cows in the storm. Absolutely. You can't, if you're going through a hard time right now, you cannot be an ostrich and stick your head in the ground. You got to face it and say, like, okay, here's what's going on. I'm in a bad situation. I have no savings. I have this overhead. What am I going to do? What my dad taught me early on, he said, mijo, cuando hay trabajo, hay que trabajar duro.
Yeah.
Y cuando no hay trabajo, hay que trabajar más duro para encontrar el trabajo. So what I just said, for people that don't understand Spanish, is my dad early on told me that when there's work, we got to work hard. And when there's no work, you got to work twice as hard to find the work. So if you don't have the escrows, if you don't have the listings, all you're supposed to be doing is what? Prospecting, lead follow-up. I guarantee you, if you're investing all of your time prospecting and doing lead follow-up, you will find one person that needs your help. And then from there, it snowballs.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're at home and you're sticking your head in the ground saying, I got no escrows, I got no listings, nothing's going to change. For things to change, you got to face reality and you got to go. Enjoy the good fight. But remember, don't block all the punches with your face because it hurts.
Amen. I think that's a
Yeah.
powerful way to end this. So Hector, not everybody is blessed with the privilege like we are, thanks to our big brother Andy, to have access to you. So where can people find you? We know that you offer coaching. You mentioned your 3-day course for the people that are looking into.
Yeah, so what
mentorship
I'm
from
doing is
Hector.
I'm doing more private one-on-one mentorship, and you guys can fly out to Cabo, and it's like a retreat experience. Or when I fly into my LA office, you can come and meet with me in private. And you can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on The Real Hector Padilla.
Awesome. Thank you, Hector.
It's been
It was
an honor, Hector.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It was awesome.
Hector, thank you.
Thank you.